सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति The chapter, the fall. We have covered the topic, the fall. The fall is not recognizing that there is this instrument. Intellect is the fall. Not knowing that there is an instrument known as intellect, and it has to be attended to is the fall. And the only way to attend to the intellect is through the knowledge of Vedanta. There is no other knowledge that can strengthen the intellect. If there is some other knowledge that can strengthen the intellect, then there is no need for Vedanta. If some other knowledge can teach you, then Vedanta is not required, because it's taught through some other knowledge already, isn't it? Therefore, the fall implies, one is not knowing that there is an instrument called intellect. Number two, not knowing what can help you to grow. And the only thing that can help you to grow is the knowledge of Vedas. The knowledge of Vedas, Vedanta, all are one and the same. So the fall is of two. There is no other way to strengthen the intellect. How do we say that there is no other knowledge that can strengthen the intellect? There is no other knowledge that can strengthen the intellect, because all knowledges teaches that which is perceivable and can be inferred. Again, I repeat, all knowledges talks about that which can be perceived and that can be inferred. So perception and inference alone is enough for all other knowledges. For the development of intellect, perception and inference is not sufficient. If perception and inference alone is sufficient, Vedanta is not required at all. Are you able to follow the logic? If perception and inference itself can teach you that, there's no need for somebody else to come and teach you that which is known already. That which can be known by some other method need not be taught by another one. Clear? Economics படிச்சா economics தான் தெரியும். Economics படிச்சா chemistry தெரியாது. Isn't it? You can't say I have studied economics, therefore I know chemistry. சொல்லலாம். Yeah. The person can say that also. But the reality is, it cannot be known in that way. So all knowledges can be learned through perception and inference. Vedantic knowledge cannot be learned through that. And intellect is strengthened only by Vedantic knowledge. Are you okay till now? Why Vedantic knowledge alone can talk about the intellect? First of all, there is this thing called intellect is taught only by Vedanta. You have an intellect is told by whom? Are you able to follow? Mind is different. Intellect is different. Both are not the same. The function is different. And the intellect, there are two functions, the gross and the subtle. All these distinctions is taught by what? Vedanta. Therefore, since it is Vedanta alone that talks about buddhi, then it becomes the only subject that it can deal with it. You understand this, you know how thinking, you know how thinking should happen. Are you able to follow? Since Vedanta alone is talking about intellect, obviously it will conclude what? They alone can help you to strengthen it also. But sir, all other subjects are also talking. No. No. All other subjects using inference and perception, using pratyaksha and anumana gives you data about the world. They teach you about the world, but they do not teach about you. They do not teach about you. If at all they teach about you, if at all they come to you, all other subjects, where do they come? Body they come. At the most, they come to the body. Romba deepa pona, they come up to the periphery of the mind. Beyond that, they don't go. Are you able to follow? If all other subjects are also talking about you, at the most they will talk about the gross body, physical body, but they will talk. Slightly deeper, they will talk about mind, emotions, and the periphery of all that. Intellect as though is not discussed at all. Where they say mind itself is not there, what about intellect? Isn't it? Where when they say mind itself isn't there, yeah. The modern sciences refuse to accept psychology as a subject, as a science. They say it's a pseudoscience because science madri irukudhu avladhaan. It's not science. Why? Because they are talking about the mind. Talk about the brain, we understand, but don't talk about the mind. Now, Vedanta is an exclusive subject on the intellect. So, what is the fall now? Two things is the fall. One is not knowing the intellect. Second is not knowing what knowledge can develop the intellect. Thirdly, finally, the most important aspect of the knowledge is, what is the most important aspect of the knowledge? Intellect. Knowledge has to expose who you are to you. Who you are to you, it will expose. Are you able to follow? No other knowledge can expose us who you are to you. Okay. Ask anybody, have given this example any number of times. When the child is hungry, what the child will say? When the child is hungry, it will not say, I am hungry. You have to brainwash the child to say, I am hungry. The child will point to the stomach and says, it's hungry. Because only the stomach is hungry. No, not the ears, not the nose. Therefore, it will point to the stomach and say, it is hungry. Immediately it will say, what it is hungry. Say the name. So next time it will say, Rama is hungry. First it will say, stomach is hungry. You will correct. And then you will say, stomach is hungry. Don't you have a name? What is your name? Rama. Who's hungry now? Rama is hungry. What Rama is hungry? As though some Rama sitting in the corner of the house, the corner of the street. Rama is hungry. What Rama is hungry? You should say, I am hungry. Correct? This is how it happens, no? Correct? When we were children, we did that, we forgot. We had children and they did that, that also we forgot. No, so isn't it? As a child, you did that, you won't remember, is understandable. You all had children and they all did the same thing, and we also gave them the same training. So, what is that? What is knowledge now? If I ask you, where are you? If I ask you, where are you? Where you will point out? Will you point out will you point out there? Will you point out there? Will you point out there? Where will you point out? Here. Correct? Where are you? Will you say Ganesh's house? இது அவர் வீடே இல்ல, சும்மா சொல்லின்னு இருக்கிறார் அவர் வீடு, அவர் வீடு வீடு இல்ல, ஃப்ராட் அது. Yes or no? Fraud. It's fraud. It's not his house. You think it is his house? No. Fraud. Not his house. So where are you? Now will you say Ganesh's house? It means you didn't understand the question. Where are you? Where will you point out? Where in that? In the eyes, in the nose, in the heart, somewhere you will point out. Yeah. The answer is you don't. The answer is you don't know. Vedanta teaches you that. To learn that, to understand that, you need a buddhi. That's the buddhi noda relevance. Able to follow? So first is talks about the intellect. Second is it gives material to strengthen the intellect. For what purpose? To have a peaceful mind. Mind and peace doesn't go together. Yeah, mind nale disturbance, agitated. I want to have a peaceful mind. I'll not get it. Only peace that you will get is absence of mind, which is deep sleep. Only time where you get peace is when mind is peace. Only when the mind is absent. Therefore, it tells you very clearly what peace of mind is. What it will teach you. By teaching you who you are, peace comes automatically. So it is not peace of mind that it is aspiring. It tells you who you are, that knowledge gives you peace. So by peace is a byproduct. It is not worried about making you peaceful. That intellect is fallen. That intellect is fallen. Now how to go back? Somewhere you have to start. Somewhere you have to start. Where do you start? You start with you. One is you can start with the world. You can start understanding the world. You can start analyzing the world. You can do all that with relation to the external world. But still, how much ever you analyze the external world, how much ever you talk about everything about it, whenever the question asked, who are you now? You refer here. Where are you now? You refer here, isn't it? Will you ever say, even if you say this is my house, will you say this is me? You will not say that, no? Yeah. How much ever you love the house, how much ever you feel that, no, there are people who say, at least I want to die here. I don't want to die elsewhere. Isn't it? Anyway, you are going to, where do you go? What difference does it? Does it make? No, but I want to die. Yeah. In my house, ghost to it. What is the, you follow? How much ever you know about the external, the fact still remains is the you still remains very elusive. So where do you start? Leave the world behind and they start with you. If they have to start with you, you have to be dissected. If they have to start with you, you have to be dissected. That dissection is the lesson, anatomy of human beings. The dissection that we are going to do is known as the anatomy of human beings. Human being, the individual, doesn't make a big. It is one and the. In that anatomy, what will they do? They will divide it into two components. One is the matter component, and then the enlivening factor, the spirit component. Matter component will be dealt with in detail. It will be dealt with in detail to say you are not that. Anything that is dealt in detail, you should understand it is not that. So they talk about the indriyas, they talk about the they talk about the body, they talk about the indriyas, they talk about the mind, they talk about the intellect. Only to conclude, all this is not you. All this is not you. You are using it, but it is not you. The loss of the eye is, it's not your law. You will not say you diminished. Isn't it? Vision is gone, you will say. You will not say 1/5 of me is dead. Will you say that? You don't, correct? If the hearing goes, you will not say 1/5 of me is dead. I am only alive. You will not say that. You will say I am deaf. It means you use the instruments and you are different from the instrument. You are using it and you are different from it. In Vedantic anatomy, in Vedic anatomy of a human being, much attention will not be paid to the grosser aspect of you, which is the body. Much attention will not be paid to that. Why? Why much attention is not paid to that?
You already learned about science in school, other places.
Much attention will not be paid to it because there are other people to teach you about that. That's what you say as learned it in school. Science. Are you able to follow? We will not pay a lot of attention to the gross body at all because it is learned by, it can be learned by other means, other sources. Okay, I have not seen the heart, but you can cut open and keep a heart, isn't it? Not seen the kidney, but the kidney can be cut open and shown. Yeah. I have not seen my brain, isn't it? Scan at the Kamcha Buddha, I have to believe that it is. I have to believe that it is my brain only, isn't it? Long back for one of the things, they went for a scan. Scan, they came out and said, very, very good friend also. Good news, sir. You have a brain, he said. Good news. What? You have a brain. Bad news, empty, I said. Brain, I said. We don't. So you can, there are other subjects that can teach you that. That which can be taught by other subjects, Vedanta will not pay much attention to it. Are you able to follow? That's why it is so beautiful. If something else is teaching, it says, why should I interfere in that? Because that is a different system, that is a different method, that's a different approach. So me getting into it is not. So what Vedanta does, it moves on to the subtler aspect. So in the fall of the human intellect, in the Vedic anatomy, we will study the body. From the body, we will discuss a lot about indriyas, which sciences do not talk about. Carefully follow. Anatomy, organ, we will say there is a set of organs. But then they will talk about indriyas. they will talk about mind, they will talk about intellect, which all this is, which cannot be taught by any other subject. If it cannot be taught by any other subject, means any instrument from that cannot capture this. Are you able to follow? If it cannot be taught, means any instrument from that cannot capture this. Also, what they do, not only they talk about the indriyas, all these things, they also talk about a deity for everything. They also talk about a deity. Through which instrument you can see a deity? You cannot. You follow what I'm saying? Each and every instrument has a presiding deity, and all those presiding deities will report to one person, and that person also reports to somebody else. In a hierarchy, clear? That person also reports to somebody else. That also reports to somebody else. For stage, there is a person on top who need not report to Avardham Paramatma, Avardham Brahman. That is Brahman, and that is you. Able to follow? That is you. It concludes beautifully. Able to follow? Ram Subramanian. You are report. Everybody has to report. A time comes where there is nobody to report to. Avardham Supreme. That's why it's called Supreme God. So there are gods, and then there is a Supreme God. That Supreme God will delegate. Isavasya Upanishad says that. The Supreme God will delegate. He will delegate. He will say, you do this job, you do this, you will delegate. So what will he do? He will relax. A system will take, system is running. No. Why they should worry? Because a system which is flawless by nature, therefore the Supreme need not worry. It's not like a man-made system where we have to keep worrying, where we have to keep changing, because it is a perfect system. So, where does the Vedic the Vedic Vedantic anatomy starts? From the Indriyas to the self. Gross body is taught by others. Gross body is taught by others. There is a muscular system. There is a nervous system. That need not be taught by Vedanta. Why? Because others are doing. What Vedas have told us very clearly, we teach a subject that cannot be taught by anybody else. That's the formula. That is the basic, that's a very basic knowledge. So yeah, with this, we study the anatomy of human beings. Oh, she's still alive. Huh?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yeah, please.
Anatomy of human beings. A human being is composed of spirit and matter. The spirit is the self, the divine core of the human personality. Matter comprises the body, mind, and intellect. The self enlivens the body to perceive and act, enlivens the mind to feel, and the intellect to think, contemplate. However, the type of perception and action, feeling and thought emanating from the body, mind, and intellect will depend upon one's inherent nature, known as vasanas. As the vasanas, so the thought, feeling, perception, and action. The chart below gives the constitution of a human being with his built-in anatomical, physiological, psychological, intellectual, and philosophical structures. The body comprises the organs of perception and the organs of action. The organs of perception perceive the sense objects of the world. Eyes see color and form. Ears hear sound. Nose smells odor. Tongue tastes food. Skin feels touch. The self functioning through the organs of perception becomes the perceiver, perceiving the sense objects of the world. That makes up one part of the physical personality. The other part is the actor, created by the self, functioning through the organs of action. The actor executes action. The actor and the perceiver together form the physical personality. Within the body lie two wondrous equipments known as the mind and the intellect. The mind is composed of feelings, emotions, likes and dislikes. The self functioning through the mind becomes the feeler, experiencing joy, sorrow, love, hatred, passion, affection, anger, jealousy, etc. The feeler is the emotional personality. The third and the most important equipment in a human is the intellect. The intellect is that which thinks, comprehends, reasons, judges, decides. It is designated to guide, direct the mind and its emotions, the body and its perception and actions. The intellect is of two types, the gross intellect and the subtle intellect. They execute distinct functions in human life. The gross intellect operates within the precincts of the terrestrial world, from the simplest distinction to the profound themes of science and technology. All fall under the purview of the gross intellect. The self expresses through the gross intellect as the thinker, the intellectual personality conceiving thoughts pertaining to the world. Beyond the gross intellect lies the subtle intellect. The subtle intellect crosses the limits of the terrestrial world to conceive the transcendental reality. It distinguishes the eternal from the ephemeral, discerns spirit from matter. The self expresses through the subtle intellect as a contemplator, as a spiritual personality conceiving the self which transcends the body, mind, intellect, and their manifestations. Thus, a human being is a hyphenated perceiver, actor, feeler, thinker, contemplator, a synthesis of physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual personalities, as projected in the chart below.
Oh, correct. So, it's a very straightforward distinction. There is this human being divided into these categories. The first one is perceiver, actor, feeler, thinker, contemplator. If you go to the chart 1, can you show the first chart, the self, vasanas, body, mind, intellect one? If you see that chart, at the top is the self. You see the self in the beginning. From the self comes the vasanas, and the vasanas divides itself into 3. The body, the mind, the intellect. And the body is divided into 3, organs of perception and organs of action. Perceiving, so the self, carefully follow now. This is how you have to study the anatomy. That is on the chapter. So how do you understand now? The self, because of vasanas, through the gross body, when it is functioning through organs of perception, it will be known as perceiver, perceiving sense objects. That's how you should read. Again, the self conditioned by vasanas through the body, which is gross body, and when it is using the organs of perception, will be known as perceiver, perceiving sense objects. So the same self, organs of action, actor, performing various types of actions. The self, through the mind, becomes the feeler, experiencing all types of emotions. The self, through the gross intellect, thinker, regarding the world. When they say world, it's not about earth. It is about all that is conceivable. So whenever we talk about in Vedanta world, it's not the geographical world they are talking about. World means all that is conceivable, perceivable. Then comes the self through the subtle intellect, known as the contemplator, entertaining thoughts of the reality. Are you able to follow? Which one is learnt from other schools? Which is exclusive to Vedanta? In this anatomical chart, which is exclusive? 98% is exclusive. Self. Who talks about the self? Nobody talks about the self. Who talks about vasanas? Nobody talks about vasanas. Who talks about the gross body? Sciences talks about. But they don't talk about the indriyas, the sense, all that. We are going to study that. Mind, feeler, experiencing various emotions. All other subjects talk about not experiencing emotions. You becoming that emotions, being a victim of that emotion. Are you able to follow the difference? It will not say you are experiencing, it will say there will not be a distinction between you and that. All other subjects will say you are that. Vedanta says wrong. You can never say I am angry. You can never say I am compassionate. You and that is not the same. Correct? That is the difference. Then comes the thought of the world, which is gross intellect. Then comes the thought of the reality, which is the subtle intellect. So, human being, from one angle, you can say PAFTC. Perceiver, actor, feeler, thinker, contemplator. Who is a human being? You can say body, mind, intellect. So anatomy A, you can talk about the anatomy in different angles. One is you can say BMI, body, mind, intellect. Yeah. BMI the Shankar. Yeah, he will never say body, mind, intellect. He will only say BMI, sir, he will say. I hear it as body mass index, and I'm hearing it. I don't hear it as body, mind, intellect. Yeah. BMI, no, BMI. Your BMI is underweight, no? Huh? Somebody's BMI, Ram Subramanian is slightly over. Yeah, slightly over. Yeah. Somebody is under, somebody is over. Yeah. BMI, body, mind, intellect. So, one way of calling a human being is BMI, body, mind, intellect. Another way is PAFTC, perceiver, actor, feeler, thinker, contemplator. Go to the next chart. Another way of looking at it is physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual personality. Based on the perceiver, actor, feeler, thinker, contemplator, again, the human being can be divided into 4 types of personalities. So, perceiver and actor combined will become the physical personality. The feeler will become the emotional personality. The gross intellect thinker will become the intellectual personality. The subtle intellect contemplator will become the spiritual personality. So, contemplator if you focus on, you will be known as a spiritual personality. If you are focused on the thinker, you will be called as the intellectual personality. Feeler, emotional personality. Perceiver, actor, physical personality. So thus the human being is a hyphenated perceiver, actor, feeler, thinker, contemplator, a synthesis of physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual personalities. Now the fall, when we are discussing, up to the mind is very, up to the mind part, to some extent is understandable. Because you experience various types of emotions. Like the list that is given is, some list is given. Joy, sorrow, love, hatred, passion, affection, anger, jealousy, etc. All this is combined emotions. The third and the most important equipment in a human being is the intellect. Why do we say that? Because it is the distinguishing instrument that makes us different from rest of the creation. Everything in creation has a body. Everything in creation has feelings. But one species alone, intellect. So the distinguishing factor is the intellect. If it is a distinguishing factor, means in that lies your welfare nerve. If it is a distinguishing factor, in that lies your welfare. The distinguishing factor of the cobra is the poison. Poison is the cobra. Take the poison away, it's a rope. Yeah, take the poison away, it's a rope. Still we may be afraid. Yeah, that's a different story. But for all practical purposes, it has become the rope. Therefore, the distinguishing feature of a human being is not experience. Because all species that has a body and mind experiences. So we all experience, no sir. All species have experience. Therefore, experience is not a distinguishing factor. Body is not a distinguishing factor. Mind, which is of feelings, emotions, is not a distinguishing factor. But unique to a human being is what? Unique to a human being is what? Unique to a human being is what? Something in the mind is so unique to a human being which is self-destroying. To deal with it, there is the intellect as a safeguard. Are you able to follow? Again, I repeat. There is something that is so unique in the mind of a human being that is self-destructive, that becomes, that intellect has to come and save it. The poison of the cobra doesn't murder the cobra. Correct? It has the poison, but it doesn't kill it. It means it is for protection. Every species has a natural protection. If we were to ask what is the natural protection of a human being? Love, sir. Affection. Now, we all should have the natural protecting factor. Because all species are loving. It is a human being. It is a human being, it is a human species that doesn't know what love is. We don't know. At least other species knows when to love and when to stop also. Human species alone doesn't know even. Entry is also wrong. Exit is also wrong. Entry on the exit on the. Some will exit at the wrong time, some will permanently be stuck, but nevertheless, it is. Therefore, intellect as a vital instrument is necessary. Are you able to follow? Why? Because other species has emotions, but they are not a victim of emotions. Other species has emotions, but they are not a victim of emotions. One. Number two, all species will act. Human beings has to be naturally human being is not acting. Gift கொடுக்க வேண்டியிருக்குது இல்லையா, டெம்ப்ட் பண்ண வேண்டியிருக்குது, isn't it? Salary கொடுக்க வேண்டியிருக்குது, isn't it? Carrot வைக்க வேண்டியிருக்குது, correct? Because without that carrot, but they think they are very great, no? Yeah, without the carrot, the fellow wouldn't move. Other species acts. There is no problem. Yeah, there is no human beings. So two things. Body is there, but the human being will not act. Mind is there, but the human being will not know how to properly. Why? Because that which has to guide both is not attended to is the form. Are you able to connect now? That's why we say intellect is the factor that guides the mind and the body. Perceptions, actions, and emotions. Because they have emotions, but they are not a victim of emotions. Correct? Depression is unknown in other species. Human being will not know anything other than depression, isn't it? It doesn't know anything other than depression. Other species doesn't know what depression is. Isn't it? Arjuna Vishada Yoga. You can go right on top and still you are vulnerable for depression. Still you are vulnerable. But who all understand? Yeah, that's the why Arjuna Bhagavad Gita is so meaningful. Why? Because what a great personality Arjuna is. Did we discuss Arjuna here sometime? We discussed that. Then it's okay. See, such a great, wonderful achiever Arjuna gets into depression. Yeah. Where everybody is looking up to wanting to get there. That person is saying, I want to get away from where I am. Look at that. Everybody wants to get there, but that person is saying, I don't want to be here. Able to follow. Therefore, the third and the most important equipment in a human is the intellect. It's called dhi. In Sanskrit, intellect is called dhi. And the dhi in the buddhi. So for all practical purposes, you have to understand intellect means dhi. Dhi means buddhi. Samadhi. Yeah, samadhi. Buddhi samamma irundha adukku per samadhi. Yeah. Sthita prajna. Meaning one who is anchored in that, undisturbed state. One who is anchored in that undisturbed state. From that undisturbed state, looking at the instruments going through the fluctuations. Carefully follow. Our undisturbed state is quite now. What will his mind to do? Mind will still go through the fluctuations. He is unconnected with that, disconnected from that. Because he says, I have nothing to do with the mind will go through that. Mind will go through that. Thoughts will run towards the world. But because of the buddhi, the discriminating factor, the ability to decide and make a choice, the affectation lessens. A time comes where it will be running, but you will remain unaffected. This is the function of the intellect. And this intellect can be strengthened only through the study of the Vedanta. How the Vedantic knowledge alone can strengthen the intellect? Because the Vedantic knowledge alone talks about the realities of life. Intellect is strengthened by studying about the realities of life. Realities of life, you are able to digest it. To that extent, you become, we say the intellect is functioning, strengthened. So it is studying the realities of life and digesting it, accepting it. First, you have to accept it as a reality. The intellect becomes strong by the study of Vedanta. And what is Vedanta talking about? What is Vedanta talking about? The realities of life. So by educating the human being on the realities of life, the intellect becomes strong, and that strong intellect would be able to guide the mind, the perceptions, and the actions. Or you can say the emotions, perceptions, and actions. The anatomy. This is the human anatomy. In this, we say intellect is very important, because that is so unique, which we have already covered. Why we spend a lot of time in introducing that is because when we go along, I'll be referring to that. So you can easily, so that's why we spent three sessions or 4 sessions on introduction itself. No first lesson. Even the first lesson is not yet over. We have already concluded 6 sessions, I think. 6 or 7 sessions, I don't know. Because to educate on the intellect is that difficult. Realities of life, Vedanta talks about. It talks about the realities of life in complete. You're able to follow? Starting from being a victim of likes and dislikes, starting from not able to understand the realities of life and having unreasonable expectations, being a victim of likes and dislikes, unreasonable expectations. Expectation unreasonable. There is no reasonable expectation. If you are reasonable, there will not be a expectation. If you are reasonable, there will not be. So it is unreasonable expectations. Three, taking experience as the proof. Taking experience as the proof. That's why we spoke about experience hunter also. I will follow. We spoke about being an experience hunter. Why? Because even there we want experience is the proof. So the reality of life says experience is not the proof. That's why we say we don't even aspire for spiritual experience. What do we don't aspire for? Don't even aspire for a spiritual experience. But sir, I understand, but I'm getting it sometimes. When I am in that contemplative mode, I get some glimpses. What is that? Correct. Hallucination, go back. Hallucination, go back. Hallucination, go back. For there is no spiritual experience possible. So these are all the realities of life. So from this end of the spectrum to that end of the spectrum, it talks about the realities of life, educating you thoroughly. Which instrument can grasp all that, reflect on that, question that, understand that? It is the intellect. It is the intellect. Because mind and senses will straight away reject. இதெல்லாம் வேலைக்கு ஆகாதுன்னு your mind and senses will straight away reject. It is the intellect that listens to this, considers this as a முதல்ல straight away rejection. Grades சொல்றோம். Straight away என்ன ஆகும்? Rejection தான் first. அப்புறம் maybe it is possible. ஒரு possibility. கொஞ்சம் ட்ரை பண்ணி தான் பார்க்கலாங்க பாசிபிலிட்டி. which இதெல்லாம் ட்ரை பண்ணிட்டா ஒன்றும் ஒர்க் அவுட் ஆகல. அதனால தான் இல்லையா, having tried everything else, let me try this out, because then there is a possibility. Then it works. Sometimes it works. Correct? Sometimes it works. அப்புறம் this works predominantly. Finally, this alone, nothing else. That's how it grows. Straight away, what rejects? The senses and the mind will reject it. Straight away, outright rejection. Don't even talk about it. I don't even want to hear this. If at all I will hear, or entertainment goes, I will hear. Don't ask me to follow practice. Or entertainment இல்லையா? ஐபிஎல் ஒரு என்டர்டெயின்மெண்ட், இது ஒரு என்டர்டெயின்மெண்ட், அவ்வளவுதான் இல்லையா? ஐபிஎல்க்கு பாஸ் வாங்கணும், டிக்கெட் வாங்கணும், இதுக்கு எல்லாம் ஆகணும். சும்மா ஜூம் இருந்தா போறோம், isn't it? அவ்வளோ என்டர்டெயின்மெண்ட். ஸோ we are worried about. So even if I see, there is no acceptance of it, because I'm not even willing to consider this as a possibility. So first comes rejection, then comes possibility, maybe, and then one or two things works. Sometimes it also works. நிறைய விஷயம் ஒர்க் ஆகுது, அதுல இதுவும் ஒண்ணு. And then comes நிறைய நேரத்துல நிறைய நேரத்துல இட் ஒர்க் சார் அப்படின்னா சம்டைம்ஸ் இட் இஸ் நாட் ஒர்க்கிங் ஆல்சோ. கரெக்டா? She will call and I will not answer her call. I will see her calling, I will put the phone down like this. I will not answer. Ask her, not answer. Because first statement she will start. Sometimes, sir, not sometimes, sir. Most of the times, what you are saying is right, working. What she is going to say now is, in this area, what you said is not working. Yeah. So she is calling me to educate me. So path it, I'll just put it. Sometimes it works. Most of the time it works. Idallam gradually intellect has not yet fully grown. These are all glimpses of intellect growing. A time comes where this alone is the pramanam. This alone works. Vedas alone is the pramanam. Vedanta alone is the pramanam. Conviction vandha. Intellect is awakened. To that intellect which is awakened, another teaching will start. To that intellect which is awakened, another learning will start. So idhula priority enna vanum? Another teaching pathana interest தேவையில்லை. What is needed? Correct. இது awaken ஆனாதான் it will be ready for that teaching. இங்கே awaken ஆகாம everybody will ask question about that. Able to follow? இங்கே இல்லை. Sir, if I get 100 crores, Abdina, will you have a discussion with that person? Did you hear me rightly? If I get 100 crores, if I have 100 crores, will you ever have a conversation with that person? Why? Then we will talk. Nothing is there. Where are you now? Loan try பண்ணிருக்கேன் சார். I'm trying to get a loan. That fellow is talking, if I இதெல்லாம் தான் பிரம்மன் பத்தின டிஸ்கஷன். பிரம்மன் பத்தின டிஸ்கஷன், ஆத்மன் பத்தின டிஸ்கஷன்ல என்னது? If I haven't மாதிரி அது. That's why Upanishad says இவங்கிட்ட எல்லாம் பேசவே பேசாது. Upanishad will not even talk, but we will talk. Why? Obviously we are not Upanishad. That's why. Yeah, that's why we are sitting and talking. So priority is what? Strengthen the intellect to accept the pramanam. The moment it accepts this is the only pramanam, a different teaching will start. What is that teaching? Mahavakya teaching. To that awakened intellect, Mahavakya teaching will happen. Now, to awaken the intellect, Mahavakyas cannot be used. Please understand that fallacy. Most of the time, people make the fallacy in Vedanta and come back and say it's not working because it is the awakened intellect that can relate to Mahavakyas. You cannot use Mahavakyas to awaken the intellect. Any number of Vedantic students making this is because they think straight away Mahavakyas adallam pachamnaka it is easy. Nothing will happen there. Yeah. Ena tyaktena punjitam, Isavasya says. I want to be happy. What do you want? What do you want? I want to be happy and peaceful. Correct? What do you want? Want? You want only that? Yes. Very simple. That's very easy. The easiest thing is to get this peace and happiness is very easy. Everybody give up. Give up. Give up. Give up. இந்த சுடாலா ஸ்டோரி கேட்டிருக்கிறியாப்பா? யோக வசிஷ்டா சுடாலா ஸ்டோரி கேட்டிருக்கிறியா? அதனால உங்களை கேட்டேன். உங்களுக்கு தெரியாது, தெரியும். ராமசுப்ரமணியம். You also, I know. Rest and all knows I know. Yeah. இவங்களுக்கெல்லாம் நிறைய தெரியும். No, you know. யோக வசிஷ்டா. அவங்க கேட்கவே வேணாம். They are all the Brahaspatis. They know. Ganesh, அவர் ஜெகத் குருவே அவர். he also knows. இப்போ உங்ககிட்ட சொல்றேன். There is a text called Yoga Vasishta. அதுல there is a beautiful story. What is the story of Chudala? Extraordinary story. This morning I was reading that. Beautiful story. The king of Kashi, his name is Shikitvaja. His wife is Chudala. Chudala is an enlightened person. She is the Brahma Jnani she is. She knows the truth. Shikitvaja doesn't know that. One day suddenly the king developed the desire to know this. Technically it's called Brahma Vidya, the knowledge of Brahman, or it's called Atma Vidya. Brahma Vidyan சொல்லலாம், Atma Vidyan சொல்லலாம். Atma Vidyana knowledge of who you are, Brahma Vidyana knowledge of what. Both means the same. So they wanted this Brahma Vidya, Atma Vidya. And the way to gain this Atma Vidya is leave everything and go to the forest and sit. Correct? That's the way to gain this knowledge. So what Shikitvaja did, he gave up the kingdom, called his ministers and said, you guys take care, everything. He went to the forest, built a small hut for himself, living on bare minimum. Living on bare minimum. The problem is, if you are living in the forest, you can't even come out for alms. You can't even come out for arms because when you are living in the forest, you have to live on what you get there. You won't know which fruit to eat also, isn't it? Some wrong fruit you will eat, you will die also. Doesn't, yeah. So that is the forest life. Because who will teach you this is good, this is who will teach you this is vitamin C, this is vitamin D and all there? யார் சொல்லி கொடுக்க போறாங்க அதெல்லாம் இல்லையா? அதான் ஃபாரஸ்ட் லைஃப்னாலே போவாதன்னு வாங்க. And the Shikidwaja took that forest life. He went, built a small hut for himself, doing tapas. Whatever tapas it is, he was doing some tapas. Chudala, the wife, knew this is not the way to know the truth. This is not the way to know Brahman. This is not the way to know the truth. With all love and affection, she wanted to educate the king. Obviously, the king is not going to listen. Why? Why? Ram Subramaniam. Wife. Simple, no? Wife. Will anybody want to learn anything from the wife? That's not possible. Brahma Vidya? Huh? No way, correct. No way. Brahma Vidya from the wife. Now, wife nalle embodiment of avidya. Yeah. Ange vidyave varadu, Brahma Vidya engendu varum? Huh? Correct? Huh? Don't talk about Ranjini like that. Huh? We took one, I won't get any dinner. Ore or exception. Huh? She's there, huh? இல்ல delete பண்ணிடுங்க வீடியோல இருந்து. Edit this portion. I didn't realize that she's there. Since when she started coming into this, I didn't know. Okay. Yeah. So what Chudala did? She took the form of a yogini. She took the form of a yogini and went and stood. The king was deep in meditation. No meditation. He was in full deep sleep. He should have been. He woke up and saw her standing, fell at her feet. All my tapas is fructified today. Because a Tejasvi like you has come. Not our Tejasvi, original Tejasvi. Yeah, we also have a Tejasvi, but one Tejas is sambandhame illa. We also have. Avanga peru adampa. Avanga peru. Yeah. So says a Tejasvi has come because tapas no. If you have done tapas, if the Tejas is extraordinary. Something so wonderful, something so attractive. Like Vamana. See, when Vamana walked into the Yajnashala, everybody stood up. He just walked in, 3 feet, small boy walked in, everybody. Yeah, that is the stages, that spiritual culture, the spiritual brilliance. And the selflessness attraction. That's the stages. Okay. And looking at that, Shikidwaja said, all my tapas is rectified. You have come to teach me. Teach me Brahma Vidya. He asked, what is Brahma Vidya? She asks, what is Brahma Vidya? Peace and happiness, true nature, peace, happiness. Vedanta class la nariya attend pannirukkaru avaru. Yeah, he has attended a lot of Vedanta classes, so he gave all the wrong answers. Vedanta class wrong answers, so he gave all the wrong answers. So I said, adalla, what is the way to get there? Did all this took you there? This is what you are saying you want. Did all this taken you there? Or are you even moving closer to that? There is the real method, the proper method. What is the real proper method? You want that? Give up. Simply give up. Simply give up. Shikidwaja said, you don't know who I am. You don't know who I am. You don't know what all I have. I have given up. You don't know who I am. And you also don't know But so he gave a long list of things that he gave up. I gave up the kingdom, I gave up wealth, I gave up this, I gave up that, and I had the most beautiful wife, Chudala. I gave her. அவனையும் விட்டுட்டு வந்துட்டேன். யார்கிட்ட? சுடாலா கிட்டே. She must be having good here. The outer humor இருக்கவே இருக்காது, but still she is keeping a very straight face. But you have given up nothing. You have given up nothing. Little bit of intellect is alerting that king. And still having the hut and the few vessels. So what he did, he destroyed the hut, threw the vessels into the river, and came back and said, "Now am I ready?" She said, "No, you have not given up anything. You have not given up anything. What have you given up? Nothing you have given." Again, he is thinking, what more a human being can give? எல்லாம் கொடுத்தாச்சு, ஓண்டி ஆயாச்சு, இதுக்கு மேல என்ன இருக்குது? ஒண்ணுமே இல்லையே. The body is still there. So he wants to give up the body also. Because mind is சொல்றான்ல, body. So he lit the fire. He was about to enter. She said, "Answer my question and enter." What are you doing? I'm going to give up my body. What will happen to the body once it comes in contact with the fire? What will happen to the body if it comes in contact with the fire? Turns into ashes. Yeah, turns into ashes. Beautifully she asked, whose ashes? He said, my ashes. He said, my ashes. What have you given up? Body is gone. Everything is gone. What is it that is saying as mine? This Viveka Vichara, intellect alone can do. Are you able to follow? This Vicharam, this is the inquiry. This inquiry can be done by the intellect alone, which is guided by the Shastra. So it means some lot of preparatory practices has to be done for the intellect to become awakened so that it gains the knowledge. So first is prepare the soil and then plant the seed. Intellect, 2 steps. First is prepare the soil and then plant the seed. She's saying, what is in you that is claiming the body as mine? Some notion. Are you able to follow? People write a will, no? My ashes should be spread over. Who's saying that? He doesn't even know that who's saying that? The notion of, so Isavasya says, you want to be happy? Magrada, tena tyaktena bunjitam. The way to be happy is give up, renunciation. Which intellect can understand that? Are you able to follow now? Ulo story edukku sonno. Which intellect will be able to appreciate and understand that happiness comes only through renunciation? The intellect that is exposed to the Shastric study, did the reflections, etc., alone will be able to understand this. That is where we talk about the development of that's why we talk about the awakening the intellect first and then educate the awakened intellect. So one type of knowledge to awaken the intellect, another kind of knowledge to teach that intellect. Both are knowledges only. Again, I repeat. One kind of knowledge to awaken the intellect, another kind of knowledge to educate that awakened intellect. Same knowledge helps you to awaken the intellect. The same knowledge exposes you to that also. This is end of chapter 1, the 4. Chapter 2, we'll talk about the history of human development next week. Venkatachalam has a question.
My question is, you were talking about the anatomy,
Yes,
mind, intellect,
yes,
also self.
yes,
And the ultimate, the seer is
Yes.
self. That
Yes.
I understand.
yes.
But my question is relating to the mind,
Hmm.
thought or vritti,
Yes,
and the cognition of that vritti.
yes,
The cognition of the vritti,
yes.
the self itself.
The cognition of the thought is not the self. The cognition of the thought is thought itself.
Thought itself. So one thought arises
Yes,
and cognizes the
yes, correct. Yes, you should not say that it is self that is cognizing the thought.
okay.
Thought is,
Cognizing another thought.
the thought cognizes itself. We should not say it is self is the cognition. We should not say that. We should say self is the enlivening factor. We should say eye of the eye, shrotrasya shrotram, manaso mano, vacho gahum vachaha, all that. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
Therefore, what is that which cognizes the thought? It is the thought. Only when thoughts are functioning, you know you are aware. When thoughts are not there, you will not know that you are aware. Again, I repeat, it is the thoughts that which makes you aware. So it is in a limited sense, a thought is aware of
Another thought.
another thought only. That's why we say thought knows itself by itself. But Brahman also is the same, we say. That is very close. In fact, any description of Brahman is not Brahman. Therefore, what cognizes the thought? The thought. So you are aware of the thought by the thought. The eyes does not know what it is seeing. Does the eye know or the thought knows?
The thought knows.
It is a thought, correct? Even though we say eyes are seeing, the eyes is not aware of what it is. It is it is the thought. What makes the thought aware itself? Are you able to follow?
I have understood, even from the various discussion we had in Gita, Bhagavad Gita, there is no relationship between the seer or the
Yes.
self
Yes.
and something in the Vyavaharika, the transactional world. There is no connection.
No, there is no connection. There is no connection.
It is no connection. So
There
it
is no
must be
connection.
another thought only.
Yes, it is another thought only. There is no connection. Because there cannot be a connection between rope and a snake. There can be a connection between clay and a pot. There can be a connection between gold and ornament. There cannot be a connection between
Self and
between the rope and the snake. Like that, at one level, there appears to be a connection. But if you go to the core of it,
there's no
connection. If you stop somewhere halfway, there is a connection. What is the connection? The connection of the pot to the clay, the connection of ornament to the gold. There is a connection. But if you probe deeper and deeper and deeper, those who doesn't become a victim of the intellectual fatigue and can probe deeper and deeper and deeper, who can keep aside their experiences and probe deeper can understand this.
Okay.
Why people are not able to probe deeper? Either the intellectual is fatigue or they rely on experience. So both are flaws.
Okay.
Either relying on experience is also a flaw. Intellectual fatigue is obviously. Those who have managed these two and probe deeper and deeper and deeper understand what? It is not like clay and pot. It is not like gold and ornament. It is like
Clay
rope
and
and snake. There
rope.
cannot, yeah, there cannot
Correct.
be a connection between
Yeah,
rope and
and snake.
the snake. Why there cannot be a connection between rope and the snake? Because snake can never ever come out of.
Rope.
Second, the snake can never become a rope again.
Okay.
Snake has become the rope and anartham. Snake cannot become the rope. Are you able to follow? Venkatachalam.
Then in that case, we have the mind. Does the mind have
Yes,
a function of awareness?
yes,
See one thought, seeing, being aware of another thought. Can we
Yes.
say mind is aware? The awareness and the consciousness
yes. That is where
is a mind conscious
technically,
of, yeah.
that is why technically the subtle body, which we will go when we go to chapter 4, 5, I will be introducing that.
Okay.
Mano, Buddhi, Chit, Ahankar. The subtle body is made up of mind, intellect, Chit, consciousness, awareness, and Ahankar, the I-ness.
Okay.
So it is because of the Chit there, Chitana, not that Satchidanand, not that Chit.
Okay.
Is the thought created awareness.
Oh, thought created.
Thought created awareness, Chit, not the pure Chit. Same word irukadanaala people misunderstand.
Okay.
And in Vedanta, deliberately they use same words most of the time. Because they wanted, then only there is material to distinguish. இல்லையா அப்பதான் மெட்டீரியல் இருக்கு டிஸ்கிரிமினேட் பண்றதுக்கு விசாரம் பண்றதுக்கு யூ நீட் மெட்டீரியல். ஸோ சம்டைம்ஸ் வாட் டு தே டூ, தே டெலிபரேட்லி யூஸ் same word. So mano, buddhi, chitta, ahankar. When we go to chapter 3, 4, we will introduce that too also.
Okay.
அங்க வரும்போது we will understand that.
Okay. Thank you.
No buddhi, chit, ahankar. Venkatachalam.
Thank you.
என்ன கொஸ்டின் கேட்டாலும் you can't stump. Yeah. He thinks we can be caught out of crease.
No, I was confused between the
Yes.
capacity of the mind. How
Yes.
does it have the capacity to be aware? Or how does it have the consciousness?
Because it has chit.
It-
It is made up of chit. You follow? Yeah. One more. Yes, Ram Subramanian. Yes, tell me.
No, yes.
Yes,
So, towards the beginning of the class today,
yes,
so he was saying that in some Brahmanas, say for example, saints,
yes,
we learn through inferring and perceiving,
yes.
right? And in Vedanta, we do not learn through inferring and perceiving. So is that correct?
Yeah, the question that he's asking is, in worldly sciences, we use pratyaksham and anumana, inference. In Vedanta, don't we use it at all? We use it to some extent, but we don't give it an ultimate status. We use it. All the pramanams we use, but we don't give it that ultimate status. Ultimate status as in complete knowledge. We say it is useful to some extent, but it doesn't have the capacity to reveal the true knowledge. We make use of it, but in a very limited.
So sir, as a follow-up, as a continuation,
Yes,
so inferring and perceiving, it is to do with Drishta.
yes,
Whereas, if we go beyond inferring and perceiving in Vedanta, we
Yes.
are ready to Adrishta, correct?
perfect. Ram Subramanian. You don't have to come for classes. Because he's saying that is drishta, this is adrishta. No, correct. Very correct. Very correct. Because all that perception and inference can talk about is only a drishta. It cannot penetrate into the adrishta. Where drishta stops, adrishta starts. That's where he say where everything stops, Vedanta starts. அது ரெண்டுத்துக்கும் மிக்ஸ்லாம் ஆகவே ஆகாது. இங்கே தூக்கி அங்க போட்டுடலாம். Is Vedanta scientific? They would say, no. Science should say we are an anga of Vedanta. Venkatachalam, able to understand? Is Vedanta scientific? No. Science should say we are a child of Vedanta, anga, a part of it. Because Because of certain common things that is used, one cannot be replaced with the other. What is the common thing that is used? The methodology is used, the methodology of using the appropriate instruments. Right methodology is, what is the right methodology? Knowing which instrument to use, where, avladhan. What is knowledge? Knowledge of which instrument can do what? Microscope எடுத்துங்கோ, you will not look at the sky. Telescope எடுத்துன்னு you will not look at the bacteria. avladhan, isn't it? That's all clarity is. Adhishta and are you okay?
This is one more silly question, sir.
Yes.
So, last class, you mentioned meditation will calm the mind.
Yes.
So it is more of not yeah. So I just take that point, sir. So,
Yes.
Which is
Yes.
from my time with inner wellness classes before I joined your classes.
Yes.
So the chart that is shown, it talks about Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, all of them merging,
Yes.
right? And then it says that there is a state during which somebody gets, after achieving progress and maturity across Karma, Bhakti, Jnana Yoga,
Yes.
that they merge, the three tracks merge into one track.
Yes. Correct.
And somebody becomes meditative and then finally they go into
Yes.
realization.
Yes.
So can you help me understand between when you say meditation can really calm the mind,
Yes.
and then this merging of three tracks into one track and somebody becoming meditative and going to self-realization? Can you just
Yes.
help me
Difference.
understand that?
The difference that Ram Subramanian is asking is, somebody taught him inner wellness. யார் சொல்லி கொடுத்தாங்களோ தெரியாது. There. Somebody taught him inner wellness, he went there. Adila they showed him a chart. What is the chart? The three yogas, Karma, Bhakti, Jnana Yoga, merging into Uparati, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. So that there we are talking about meditation. Last week class we said meditation is a trick. They use the word trick. One of the various, you can trick the mind in various ways. One way of tricking the mind is meditation. What is the difference between this and that? Correct?
Yes.
That's Ram's. That is the effect of mumukshatva, ragadvesha, and all is left behind. When people are doing meditation, they are not leaving behind ragadvesha. There is no mumukshatva, simply seeking a peace of mind without dropping ahankara, without dropping likes and dislikes, without dropping ahankara. How to find peace of mind? Meditation. Sit with your eyes closed, you will be peaceful. That is a trick which appears to calm the mind for a short while. After a while, agitation comes back. So we are talking about a unprepared mind doing meditation vis-a-vis a prepared person doing meditation. That's a difference. Are you able to understand the difference now? One is the unprepared person sitting and doing something. Another is the prepared person. That's the difference. Purida? Yeah. With this, sorry. Yes.
One who contemplates is a contemplate.
Yes.
So then what is the difference? The difference between things contemplates. What is the difference between thinker and contemplate?
The difference between thinker and contemplator. When you use the word thinker, we are thinking about the world, the mind, etc. When we are contemplating, we are discussing the real and the unreal. Thinker can start from anything about the mind. It can think about its own mind. It can think about its own body. It can think about the world. It can think about so many things. When all this is happening, that is called gross intellect thinker. When the same intellect starts discriminating between nitya and anitya, that becomes subtlety, contemplating. So it is contemplating on what is real, what is unreal. So the thinker is in relation to the world, contemplator is in relation to the real and the unreal. With this, we conclude for today. We continue with chapter 2 next week.